What's going on, pre-Chiro students? It's Dr. Ben again with another important and meaningful conversation where we just aim to explore chiropractic and help shine a light on the path to becoming a chiropractor, to make it easier for you, to make you feel like you're supported by us, because we do care about the next generation of chiropractic students. So today I'm connecting with a chiropractic teacher, somebody who's involved in the profession, Dr. Brian Dooley. Can you just introduce yourself? Get us started by sharing a little bit about what your roots were, what your background was before you became a chiropractor, and what attracted you to becoming one.
My roots, I didn't have a whole lot of chiropractic for a long time. So I first was adjusted when I was about 30 years old. And so when I graduated undergraduate school at Clemson University in 1994, I had a political science degree. And what that means is you're going to go back to school in something at some point, because you can only play Trivial Pursuit so much. And so when I graduated from school, I helped remodel houses for a little bit. I built sets for movies and TV commercials. Worked for a radio station, worked for a headhunter, worked for some corporate ventures, excuse me, and had a couple of corporate layoffs that I didn't enjoy because I was doing half decent work, I thought, even better than that. But it was just when the company decides you're done, you're done. And so I was starting to think, well, what can I do where I can work for myself? Because I don't worry about success. I don't say like success or failure is up to me. Success is up to me because I'm just not going out there planning to be a failure. And so what could I do? And literally I was driving by a chiropractor's office and I said, I think I can do that. I live in South Carolina. It's a fairly manufacturing state, at least certainly the area that I'm in. And I thought a lot of people have sore necks and stiff backs because that's what I thought chiropractic was. So I thought I'll check that out. I thought, gosh, you go to school 6-9 months maybe, and then you're out. So I had zero clue about what chiropractic school really was. And there was back then, so this was probably about 1998, 99. There was this thing called the internet that was becoming a big fad. And so I jumped online and said, well, chiropractic schools. I'd known about Life University because my wife and I had lived in Atlanta for a couple of years. Then I saw that there was some school in Davenport, Iowa, and I thought, who would go to Davenport, Iowa? Again, I didn't know anything about the history. Then I saw there was Life, and then I saw there was this place called Sherman College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which was an hour away from where I was living. My wife's from this area in South Carolina. Anybody that's driven down I-85 and seen the Peach, or if you watched House of Cards, where the president, whatever, was from Gaffney, South Carolina with the Peach. That's where she's from. And I asked if she had known about Sherman, and she didn't. And so I, sent him a note, went to their career day, and I heard Dr. David Koch talk about, he was the president at the time. He's now at Life University, and he spoke about this concept of innate intelligence. And it really just super, super resonated with me. And I thought immediately, yeah, I think I'm in the right place. And so I had to go back to school for 8 prerequisites because as a political science major, I didn't have a whole lot of science. So I had to take my physics, chemistry, organic chemistry, all that stuff. And so that took about 2 years. And so I started at Sherman College in January of 2002, graduated in March of 2005. I associated for 2 years, opened my own practice in 2007. And then I started teaching at Sherman about 8 years ago. And so I teach, do a couple of hats. So I teach a bit in the philosophy department where I teach philosophy 2, which is the 33 principles. I teach what we call patient education, which is really day 1, day 2. Then I also teach media communication, how people can get their message out to the world, plus how to create a message. And then I'm also the manager of our chair of our business education department. So we teach the students business stuff as well, not just hey, somebody's going to come in and talk to you on a Saturday, but we have all that part in the curriculum. So I keep pretty busy. I still practice Mondays through Thursdays, 4 to 7. So I like being involved in practice as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It sounds like it's been a rich experience for you if you've involved yourself in that many capacities, not only staying in practice and keeping your hands in the trenches, or just with connecting with people on a regular basis outside in the real world, but also giving back and
Mhm.
supporting the students. Can you just reflect on what it was that inspired you to go back into teaching and really step into a philosophical teacher's position where you're teaching the philosophy of chiropractic? And can you also just build context on what the philosophy of chiropractic is, and when you say the 33 principles, what you're referencing?
Yeah, sure. The 33 principles, if you're able to find and open, it would come Stevenson's textbook right in the introduction. You can Google 33 chiropractic principles. If you go to a website, pureandpowerful.com, they've got them listed on there. These are 33 principles that starts, we talk chiropractic is a deductive science versus inductive. Typically, if you look at medicine, that's an inductive science. So there's this piece that's happening. And so we're going to do this thing to the piece. And the argument's going to be, do we really think about the whole? And so deductively, chiropractic wise, we want to think about the whole and then bring it down. Why am I making that adjustment at that very moment? And so it all starts with principle 1, which is our major premise that there's a universal intelligence in all matter, continually giving to its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. And that's really a big fancy way of just saying that the universe is organized. I think if we look around the universe, right, if you go to the beach, there's a tide chart on the refrigerator because we know when high tide and low tide is going to be. We know when sunset and sundown is going to be. We know when winter, spring, fall, and summer are going to usually be. We know when we're going to see the Big Dipper in a certain place of the sky. We know how long it takes to go around the sun. We know how long a day is. I mean, you name it, right? It's just cycle after cycle after cycle, which for us, we say, well, then to me, then the universe is there's an organization to it. It's supposed to work a certain way. So the quick and easy of it is then we're going to whittle all that down to when we deal with our patients and even ourselves is we're supposed to be organized as well. And so we call it that there's an innate intelligence inside us. It's this organizing principle that knows if I have a cut, I'm going to do the blood clot where that cut is. I'm not going to do it in my lungs. Or I'm not going to do it somewhere else. Or if I go outside, immediately my pupils are going to constrict because if it's a sunny day, or if I go inside, they're going to open up because I want to have more light coming in the eyes. So it's really just an organizational principle. Probably, maybe when people hear universal intelligence, it can be a cringe because oftentimes, well, you're talking about God or a deity. For me personally, it's not. It's for me personally, and this may ruffle some feathers as well, but oh well, is I see it. It's the blueprint of the universe. Now, the architect that drew the blueprint, that's a conversation to have in theology, not necessarily chiropractic. I mean, you can have it, but I just see that the universe is supposed to work a certain way. So I know that my patient is supposed to work a certain way so that when I provide that thrust to the bone, now I can open up those channels between the brain and the body. And whatever choices the patient's making at that moment, they are living their very best life at that moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You had mentioned Dr. Koch, and I believe he wrote a book on the contemporary version.
Mhm.
Can you describe how you use that in the classroom, or how that has really moved things forward from how it was originally written, or has it changed anything as the message remained the same? Do you recommend prospective students explore that text? And if so, like how can they approach the philosophy in a way that eases them into it and also just throws them right into it at the same time?
It's a great question, and probably the biggest issue. If you read any of the chiropractic green books, and these are the books that BJ Palmer, DD Palmer, a lot of the faculty members of Palmer wrote that are laying out and discussing all the various aspects of the philosophy, science, and art of chiropractic. The problem with them, especially the ones that BJ wrote, is they can be hard to read. So basically, the way that BJ operated is when he had what he called a thought flash, he'd go ahead and write it down. And even to the point where he didn't like to interrupt anything. So he would have like a big spool of paper and he would run it through his typewriter and just type the spools out, make a book. So DD, BJ, they were great thinkers, definitely ahead of their time. The problem with it is maybe as a scholar of, all right, now I've got these ideas. Do I put them in a way that's easily packaged and transmitted? Maybe not. And so I usually tell people to read Stevenson's textbook, because Stevenson, what he tried to do is get BJ's ideas up to the time. And this was first written in 27. Probably you'll get the 1948 edition. The ideas at the time, and tried to make them more easily packaged and palatable. And I believe he succeeded. That being said, when you read the 33 principles, it could be confusing at times. So what Dr. Koch tried to do was reorder the principles, combine the principles. He's actually got 34 principles. He was trying to make the English better, the grammar better. So principle 6, chiropractor's favorite, there's no process that doesn't require time. Well, that's a double negative. So we don't normally speak that way. So his point is just say every process requires time. So things like that is what he tried to clean up. I like it. I mean, in Koch, K-O-C-H, Introduction to Chiropractic, the 34 or Introduction to Chiropractic Principles, I believe is the title of the book. Super easy to read. A real good, easy book to read is by Dr. Rob Sinnott, Sinnott, and he has a chiropractic philosophy book. It was written in 2014. Super current language. Rob is excellent at pointing out maybe the discrepancies or the confusions in early chiropractic language and syntax, to where you're like, okay, that's what they were meaning back then, because that's super important to understand is, all right, not just the words that are on the page, but what was the context that they were using it. And so as an example, if you look at the definition of chiropractic in Stevenson's text, it's a philosophy, science, and art of things natural, a system of adjusting the segments of the spinal column by hand only for the correction of the cause of dis-ease. And the pause is there on purpose. And so within that definition, there's three things that people mess up. There's things natural. Things natural, a lot of times you have the more broad scoped practice, and then you have the more narrow scope practice. So broad scope might be I'm adding modalities to practice. Narrow scope's going to say I'm checking and adjusting the spine. And I'm not saying one's more right than the other, but that's the difference. And so the broad scopers will say, okay, well, in the definition, it says things natural. So I can do natural things in the office like acupuncture or massage or you name it. But things natural actually meant that it's not supernatural. So BJ clarified this in 1958, but you can see where the language gets kind of confusing, because chiropractic was confused of being a religion, a pseudo-religion, a cult, whack jobs, nut jobs. And so he was trying to clear up that language. It just took him 30 years to do it. And the problem is how many people have read the book in 1958 where he said it. So there's things natural that's misrepresented, and then there's the by hands only. So now if you go to the narrow scope doctors, if you're not adjusting with your hands and that's it, then you're not a chiropractor either. But by hands only meant that we're adjusting the segments of the spinal column without opening people up with a scalpel. And it's not surgery. And so that's a key point. And then dis-ease, the body's not at ease, doesn't necessarily mean disease yet, because you could be not at ease and just not symptomatic yet. So that's kind of one that everybody, but if you say dis-ease to a patient, they're always going to hear disease. But yeah, I would start with Dr. Koch, but then I would highly recommend Dr. Sinnott's book, because Dr. Koch is a reordering of the principles of chiropractic. And then Dr. Sinnott goes through basically whittles down the introductory important points of Stevenson's textbook. And it's a super easy read. You probably get it done within a day or two.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what's going on at Sherman these days? You're involved with the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers. You're also involved in a number of other things. So can you kind of build context on why Sherman is the place to be if you're considering going to chiropractic school and studying chiropractic,
Mhm.
why Sherman is a great option for you?
As far as location, great location in the Southeast, where we're located. We're an hour from Charlotte. We're 3 hours from Atlanta, 3.5 hours from the beach, an hour from Asheville, North Carolina, which is a pretty cool town. If you like outdoorsy things, we got ton of it. We got lakes, we got rolling hills, we got great hiking, great biking. Spartanburg, South Carolina, believe it or not, that nobody's ever heard of it. It's got 7 colleges in it. So you'll be around a bunch of like-minded people as far as age. Greenville, South Carolina, where I live, is a really cool town that they've really upgraded. It's just a nice place to go to school. There's not a lot of distraction. So listen, if you want like a huge city lights and that type of stuff, Spartanburg's not the place. But if you want a place where you have the opportunity to get out and to relax a little bit, but at the same time, you can put your head down and do the grind of chiropractic school, which isn't easy, then Spartanburg's fantastic because there is minimum distraction here. That's why that was one of the things that I liked about it. And then Sherman itself, we've got about 400 people. What I do like is that 75% of our DC faculty are still practicing in some way, whether they have an actual office like I still do, or whether they're seeing people at the health center. They might see people at their home. Some go see people, have a traveling office. I get it. Some schools, they don't want their faculty practicing because you don't. There's a fine line between serving two masters in that case. And so, but I'm very thankful that our school lets us do that because I can literally say, hey, students, this happened yesterday. So if it happened to me, there's a good chance it's going to happen to you. What would you do? How would we work through that? That real life. I mean, when I say it's a real life situation, I don't have to think of, well, what if? All right, this happened yesterday. That's a great topic to talk about. And so I'm thankful that they let us do that. We just did a $22 million renovation project. So all of our stuff's as modern as it can get. This in the old days, it looked kind of rough, like an old not elementary school, a little bit better than that. But they've really done a lot on the physical structure of the campus, so it's looking fantastic. Technology in all the rooms, all the students get iPads when they get here, so their classes are going to be downloaded onto those iPads. They take those iPads when they leave, so they have all their information in that one notebook, if you will, versus shelves and shelves and notebooks and textbooks that we might have had when we went to school. So that's super nice. In the to any room that requires a technique or some sort of a practical, even because even in patient education class, as soon as it gets over 15 people, they add another faculty member to the class. So we try to keep that ratio at 1 to 15. And what I like about it being, we have about 400 students right now, is Dr. Cordero, who's the president, is going to know who your name is. He's going to say hello to you. All of your professors are going to know your name. So you're not a number here whatsoever. And so that's what I like about Sherman. So it's definitely the family atmosphere of it. The weather's great. People are nice around Spartanburg. So it's just a really nice place to go to school. As far as the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers, you can take that as a student if you want to get more into Academy of Chiropractic Philosophy, or you can take it after school as well. Most of the time, it's practicing DCs that join it. It is year 1 of the philosophy diplomate that Dr. Sinnott runs. So Dr. Sinnott takes care of years 2 and 3. So you would do the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers. You get ACP after your name. Then you do the diplomate and you get DPHCS after your name. So that's a 2-year program. So the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers is a 1-year. And then for me, we're all about the vertebral subluxation here at school. So that's what we focus on. That's our mission. And then our visions to adjust the world for a better future. So that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. In terms of professional organizations, the IFCO is also centered on vertebral subluxation. Can you talk about your involvement with that organization and maybe some of the projects that are taking place within the context of the organization and how it aims to support students, but also support the profession?
Well, number one, everybody should be in an organization. You should join a state organization, and then you should join a national organization. At the very least, lend them your support and your finances, because those organizations do need to run. Um, if Because what happens then, if you don't get involved, then whatever happens to the profession politically, there's nothing to deal with. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So the IFCO is the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations, and what we want to do is we want to ensure that every man, woman, child, and furry friend has the opportunity to have their spine checked for vertebral subluxation and as corrected as necessary. So that's what we're about, that there's the opportunity. You take Australia right now, you can't check and adjust kids that are under 2. So we're not for that. So we're working to try to get that rescinded. There's groups that don't want to take x-ray looking for subluxation, which I think is just crazy. If you're going to enter a force into a spine, why wouldn't you want to see the picture of the spine to make sure that that force is going to be as appropriately applied as possible? I mean, you talk about doing some quack work, that's quack work, no doubt about it. So the analysis is so very, very important. Other things, the IFCO, we have white papers on a whole bunch of things. When COVID came out, there was the argument, we can't say that it cures COVID, and no, it does in chiropractic care, but we do have research where chiropractic care has shown enhanced immune system function. So if I have an enhanced immune system, at least I've got the best fighting chance for whatever virus comes down the pipe. So there's a paper out there on that on the website, ifcochiro.org. Right now, we're in the process of developing some councils to offer diplomate work as well. So hopefully there'll be one upper cervical wise. Hopefully there'll be one philosophy wise. Hopefully there'll be one with animal chiropractic. Animal chiropractic is becoming a very big thing. The furry friends need it. The amazing things you see with dogs, cats, and horses when they get adjusted is fantastic, because there's nothing more honest than an animal. And so you can see really when they get that nervous system free of the subluxation, how their lives just change right away. So that's what the IFCO is about. The IFCO is just to ensure that every man, woman, and child and furry friend has the opportunity to have their spine checked for subluxation and then corrected as necessary.
Mm-hmm. What type of practice do you have? What can you say about how you've chosen to set up your office to serve people, to serve the population, and maybe just provide some insights into some of the basic business principles, since it sounds like you're passionate about that as well?
So we have what's called the Sherman Package, is what I learned here. And so we check and adjust the spine using thermography. We use static motion muscle palpation. And then we use leg checks primarily. I've also added surface EMG, and I've added heart rate variability. So the Insight software system for me has been wonderful. I'll also assess with posture and that type of stuff. I check and adjust the spine. That's what I do. And so I don't have modalities in the practice. I chose to be a specialist on the spine. I feel that helps me. I do see amazing results. And once I'm able to help the patient get their innate to flow at 100%, amazing things happen, and it happens every day in the office. So I choose to do that. Business wise, I've got one assistant right now as a front desk person. Probably I would love to have another one that would be like the tech CA, being able to do write my notes as I dictate them and those types of things. Because the key isn't to give the quickest care as possible. The key is to give the most efficient care as possible. If you have a situation with a patient that can take 2 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour and a half, if it's efficient and appropriate, then you should do it whatever time it takes. So it's not about being the quickest, but how can I be efficient? And the way that I can be efficient is people are doing things that I don't need to be doing. And so I'm able to see a pretty fair amount of people within my 3 hours. And so I feel really comfortable about that. I do 3-hour shifts. If you're doing a shift, I recommend doing a 4-hour shift, where somewhere in the middle. So start with checking and adjusting, end with checking and adjusting. Somewhere in the middle, do your specialty hours, your new patient exams, your report of findings, because the mindset to have when you're seeing people, they're coming in and they're going, and so you're checking and adjusting, it kind of rev you up a bit. And now you've got to sit down and be really, really present with that new patient, because they've got pain, they've got frustration, they've got anxiety because they haven't been to the chiropractor before, they don't know what it is, or they've heard all these crazy things coming from the outside world. So being able to just be present with that patient is so very key. And the best way to do that is not to be distracted by other things going on in the office. So when you're thinking about going to school and how is this business going to look, and then how many, you work as much as you want, you can work as little as you want. I mean, that's the nice thing about chiropractic. I chose to have my office Monday through Thursday because I do travel a lot in my duties with the school. But if I don't travel, I have a 3-day weekend. And so yay me. So nothing wrong with that type of thing. So I feel really comfortable practicing Monday through Thursday. I've done it all. I've done, what was it? Used to be, I think Thursday used to be the chiropractor's day off. Everybody went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they were off Friday. Then I went to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I like that because you had the break in the middle. Then I went to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I went to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday mornings. So I've done it all, and this one's my favorite as far as that's concerned. But the nice thing about owning your own business, you can say, listen, if you want to work 8 days a week, go ahead. I mean, there's nobody stopping you. You can see as many people as you want. The nice thing about chiropractic, and because I'm simply checking and adjusting spines, that just helps me see more people, because I don't have to spend the time on other things. If somebody needs physical therapy, if they need nutrition, if they need exercise, I send them to those people. I said, you need to go talk to these people, because quite frankly, I don't have a degree in exercise science. I don't have a degree in nutrition. And what you learn in chiropractic school is not going to make you an expert. It'll help you good enough to pass the boards. And so that's just not for me. Other people want to add it, that's up to them. But it's not for me, because I can be a specialist. I can command a higher fee. So I can see a lot of people, I can command a higher fee, and I have less overhead because I don't have to pay for the room and the people to do all those other things. So it works out pretty good, to be quite honest.
Most definitely. Can you talk about your observations of the students over the last 8 years, just observing the new generations coming through the school? Are the demographics changing? Like, what do you see in the new students? What are the new resources that have maybe become available that weren't previously available? And what are the opportunities that exist for a new chiropractic student today?
I don't know if the demographics have changed all that much. In Sherman's case, we've always been about 50-50 male, female, as far as that's concerned. We do have a pretty good contingent from Puerto Rico. That's probably changed a fair amount, which is good, because the Spanish speaking population needs to be served for sure. I think as far as what's different now, using, like when I was in school, if you had an overhead projector and you could draw on it, that was fancy teaching. When I was there. So now you've got things like Schoology. People might have used Blackboard, these learning management systems where everything's right there. So there's a very, how do I want to say it? It's a very quick return on what they're getting. I mean, I like it. So for instance, what we do at Sherman is we have your weeks, your weeks are laid out. So here's week 1 through whatever. And then you open up week 1, and in that week 1 is going to be the PDF of the PowerPoint that we're using. It's going to be a video of us talking about that PDF. There'll be any assignments, discussions, quizzes. You do all that stuff online now. So we do very little paper testing now, as far as that's concerned. But the nice part about it is once you're done with that test, that drops right into the grade book of that learning management system. So on the back end, it makes it a little faster. Now, I teach a philosophy class, which requires writing, which means I'm going to have to read those answers. So it takes a little bit more time as far as that's concerned. But the technology side of things is really good. Oftentimes, when I was in school, if you had a chiropractor that wanted to speak to students, you'd have to get them to be driving through. And unless you were going from Atlanta to Charlotte, there was really no reason to hang out at Sherman College. But now we have the technology in every classroom. We can just Zoom somebody in. And so from all over the country. Somebody wants to speak. If it's relevant to the material that I'm teaching, I just Zoom them in. And then so they can get, all right, I'm telling you this in class. Now here's somebody out in the field that's actually telling you as well. So that's probably one of the coolest things that we have is just all the technology that you're able to use. And the fact that the students are able to take that with them. So they've got all that stuff in one place. So they've got the tools to open up and have a successful practice. They might have to weed through it a little bit to say, all right, this stuff I don't need anymore. This is really the nuts and bolts of what I've got to do. And then they're off and running. So I think that's probably the big thing, but probably most of our students are around the 22 to 25, 26 years. We do have some that are older that come in. Probably less and less students have been to a chiropractor than when I started. I know when I was in school, when I was an intern, they would ask me to just tell the incoming quarter of, hey, welcome to Sherman. This is what your intern experience is going to be, blah, blah, blah. And what I noticed was when I started doing that, and I did it for about a year and a half, when I started doing it, everybody had been to the chiropractor. But then it was about getting to be like a third to a quarter had not. And it was like, huh, wow. And now you get the days it may be half to 75% of the people have never been to a chiropractor. So that's probably the biggest difference. And so the chiropractic mindset is different than the allopathic mindset. And so that's going to be a big paradigm shift, if you will. So that's been interesting to see over the last 8 years or so.
Most definitely. Can you just touch on, if you're a pre-chiro student and you are going to the chiropractor for the first time, how can you build context so that they can get the most out of that experience? Not only by the front end of receiving the care, but also the back end. Do you think they should get under care for a consistent period of time before really making the decision to go to school? And if so, what do they aim to learn or experience during that time?
I know for me, one of the rules of applying to Sherman was you had to have a recommendation from a field chiropractor. So I'd never been to the chiropractor, and even though I had heard about this thing called innate intelligence, a lot of it hadn't really sunk in yet. So a lot of where I was at was with some back pain because I had hurt myself doing sets for movies and TV commercials. And I said, well, I said I can't sell something I don't use myself. And so that's for me personal. So I thought, let me go find a chiropractor, see if it actually works. And then we'll know for sure if this is the profession for me. I thought it was. And so I'd sent a note to my school. So you might do that if you've got a school that you're thinking about going, seeing if they have an alumni in the area where you can talk to them. And so that's what I did. So there was a Sherman alum that was close to my office where I was working at the time. And so I got under care with him. And what I noticed about a year later, so I was in my prerequisites, but what I noticed about a year later, my wife and I were hiking out in California. I said, I feel so flipping great. It's unbelievable. She said, what do you mean? I said, really? I said, I'm just feeling great. And she asked, well, you think it's the chiropractic? I said, it's the only thing I've done different over the last year. I wasn't eating any better. Wasn't exercising any better. But it was just a different thing. And the cool thing was the back pain I'd been experiencing was gone months before. Even I had shoulder injury from high school football. That was gone. I didn't feel that anymore. And my chiropractor has never, ever, ever adjusted my shoulder. Never put a force into it. So he's purely, he only adjusts with the spine. And so I said, this stuff works. It works super, super well when the nervous system is free and clear and the brain can talk to the body and the body can talk to the brain. Amazing things are going to happen. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend you get under care, not because you're going to chiropractic care, but because you want to be the best version of you possible. So chiropractic school is going to be tense. It's going to be intense. It's going to be super stressful. And the reason we have a nervous system is to deal with all the stresses that we run across physically, chemically, and emotionally. And so in order for me to best process my day, I would want my nervous system free and clear of subluxations. And so that's why I was glad I got under care. That was why glad I was under care while I was in school. And that's why I remain under care to this day. So I get my spine checked once a week. sometimes get adjusted, sometimes don't. But I know at the end of either one of those visits, my body's working the best way possible, and I'm ready to deal with the day. So yeah, I highly recommend that you go just to see what it's like, and talk to the DC. Talk to them about what life is like in practice. Owning your own, any business that you own that your own, is not an easy thing to do, but that doesn't mean it can't be vastly rewarding. And so yeah, I would highly recommend that you get under care, not because you're going to school, but because it's it's going to give you the best opportunity for health in whatever you do.
No, most definitely. Great recommendations. I appreciate you taking the time just to share some insights, what you're up to. Last question, like with all the things that you've been involved with, your engagement in the profession, where do you see the profession going? Or more specifically, like what do you personally wish to contribute in the next 5 or 10 years towards the profession that could maybe shift the trajectory? Or are you going to just keep on the same course that you've been doing of serving the students and being involved in the organizations?
I think the students are always going to be the lifeblood of any endeavor. And so I talked to one of the faculty members when I was in school. And it was like, what drove you to come teach? And his point was, in practice, I can affect the lives of hundreds and thousands of people, hundreds to thousands of people. He said, but as a teacher, I can affect thousands to 10,000s to hundreds of thousands, because some small piece of whoever I teach, I'll be responsible, or I'm going to be responsible is not the right way. I'll take part in changing the life of all the people that they touch. And then, of course, there's all the people that those people touch. So for me, I can have the largest impact on the world, taking care of the students. So, I mean, I like being in practice. I'd like my office to get to be, I'll be honest, when I started teaching, I just had it as a hobby to keep my skin in the game a little bit. But now it's built, I've decided, what I'm going to do? I'm going to build this thing up and use it as a halfway house. So when students graduate, they can come practice for a little bit with the intention. You're not going to be here forever. Come here, learn your system, or learn a system, at least the way I do it, and then take off and go be successful. So I think that might help people out. So what I like to do is see the graduates open their offices. That's a heck of a lot of fun. I mean, it's fine if you need to associate, go associate. But to see somebody open up their own office and run their own thing, especially when they didn't think they could do it, is fantastic. And not only did they open it, that's actually the easy part, is they go out and they're getting people and they're helping people, and now they're growing and getting better. That's the really, really fun part of being in school. So for me, I'm probably going to be sticking around school for as long as they'll have me. Because I really enjoy the interact. I love seeing I get students in second quarter. We have 14 quarters. I like seeing them in quarter 2, then seeing how they are at graduation, and then seeing how they get in practice. And you remember that journey with pretty much all of them. And it's super rewarding, really fun.
Most definitely. Yeah, no, that's why we're doing this pre-Chiro podcast and just reaching out and connecting with passionate chiropractors, because it's important that students get exposure to how happy we are, how much enjoyment and fulfillment that I get in practice, and I get to see it in others around the world. So
Right.
It's really exciting just to kind of put it out there to somebody. If somebody listens to this and one thing they hear translates into them going and checking out chiropractic, or going and seeing what it's like to get adjusted on a regular basis, that's enough. That's the gift. So,
I mean, it'll change your life. I mean, I've had some pretty cool jobs. I mean, it was cool building sets for movies. So I liked watching my stuff on the big screen. I liked watching my stuff on television. I worked for the Atlanta Braves for a year, so I've been to the World Series. So I've done some pretty cool things. Nothing is as cool as a patient saying, you know what, I never knew that I could live like this, where I can play with my grandkids, I can go hiking, I can hit the golf ball again. I even had one lady that was so thrilled just to simply wash the dishes. In my opinion, there's just nothing more rewarding than walking the journey with somebody to a point where they're being the highest version of themselves of what they were intended to be. Because probably the thing I hear from a patient an awful lot is, I never knew I could live like this, because we're told that we're supposed to be less than beings. We're going to get beat up. Who cares if you're 75? You can be 75 and jumping out of airplanes. You can do that when your spine's working right and your nervous system's working right. So it is by far the most rewarding thing I've done. I keep a pretty busy schedule. People are like, well, how do you do it? I do it because I love it. So I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like literally I'm just doing the stuff I want to do every day. It's like every weekend. What am I going to do on the weekend? I'm going to go hang out with my chiropractic friends because they're my friends. And so I'm going to learn to be a little bit better at it, or whatever I'm going to do. It is a profession where it is completely up to me of what I do, which is fantastic. And then, there's just nothing more rewarding than how you change the lives of the people in your community. Coolest thing ever. So if you're on the fence about going, go. And I would say, don't just go to a school that's the closest to you. Check them all out and really find the one that resonates with you. And that's the place where you're meant to be. Oftentimes we go because places that are convenient, but check things out. So, and anybody, my email is B as in Brian Dooley, Dooley at Sherman.edu. If you have any questions, at least as Sherman or chiropractic in general, I'm more than happy to answer it. You may not even want to go to Sherman whatsoever. That's fine. I'll still be happy to talk to anybody about their chiropractic journey.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.